Hello my dear students, welcome to English class once again. So before starting today's paragraphs, let me take you on a journey to what we have studied in our last class. Our last class was about paragraph 6, 7, 8 and 9. Let me browse through these paragraphs very quickly. In 6th paragraph we came to know that Swami tiptoed to his granny's place, that is in the passage, without his father's knowledge. Father was reading the newspaper and Swami moved from there silently in order to sleep early that day. Then in paragraph 7, he was talking to Granny and he was trying to silence Granny. He did not want his father to come to know about his presence in the passage with the Granny. So he was making wild gesticulations and actions in order to silence his Granny. He also told his Granny that even if the house is set on fire, he should not be woken up. You remember that. Then in paragraph 8, you have to see the textbook when I say, in paragraph 8, his father came to his passage and tried to wake him up. Somehow his father came to know that his son secretly moved to the passage and he came following Swami, and Swami had covered his face and entire body with this blanket, and he was pretending to be asleep. He was acting as if he was asleep. He did not want anybody to wake him up that day because he did not want to sleep alone in his office room that night. So his father came, presently his father came to his place and pulled his blanket and told Swami to get up and come along with him. So after a lot of persuasion, Swami got up and went along with his father to the office room. On the way, he threw a look at his mother and his granny, which was not of any use. Means he wanted his mother or granny to help him or to prevent his father from making him sleep in the office room. But that did not work at all, and the father was very firm in his decision that day. He wanted Swami to sleep in his office room that night in order to make him overcome all the fears he had. So all the plans of Swami went in vain, and finally he said that I don't want to sleep on the floor. There are scorpions on behind your lobos and all those reasons he gave. But his father did not agree. His father made him sleep on the bench that night. And finally he asked for a lamp also, which his father did not give. And finally we come to know that his father threatened him that if Swami goes out at night from the room, he will make him a laughing stock of him in his class. Laughing stock means he will share all the information with his friends and all the incident with his friends, and his friends will make fun of him. That was a threat given by Swami's father to him. So finally now we come to know that Swami entered the room. The room was dark, absolutely dark. Probably for the first time in his life, he was sleeping alone at night. Daytime, Swami was okay. He was ready to sleep anywhere during daytime. But nights made it very difficult. But that day was an unexpected day for Swami. Just because of that newspaper incident and that boy's story and tiger's story, Swami was in danger. Now, let me throw a light on paragraph 10. Please go through. It's on page number 6. Swami felt cut off from humanity. He was pained and angry. He did not like the strain of cruelty he saw in his father's nature. He hated the newspaper for printing the tiger's story. He wished that the tiger had not spared the boy, who did not appear to be a boy after all, but a monster. Finally, see what Swami is thinking about it. Swami felt cut off from humanity. He thought that there was no one to help him. Father, no way. even mother and grandmother became helpless that day. So he felt he was cut off from humanity. All were being cruel and unkind to him, and he was away from humanity. He was pained and angry. Pain in the sense of not any wound or anything. Pain refers to he was helpless. He was not being helped by anyone. Angry. Angry on whom? Angry on a boy, maybe the tiger or the newspaper. He did not like the strain of cruelty he saw in his father's nature. He had never seen his father so cruel and so unkind. So he thought that his father is being very cruel and unkind to him that day, who made a challenge in the beginning and made a command at the end. So then he hated the newspaper for printing the tiger's story. He held this newspaper responsible for all that was happening. So he blamed the newspaper for printing that story. He wished that the tiger had not spared the boy. He thought that the tiger should have killed the boy. The tiger should have killed the boy. If it had happened, father would not have praised the boy. Father would not have asked me to sleep in the office room. So he blamed that boy also. He cursed that boy also, who did not appear to be a boy after all. For Swami, in the eyes of Swami, that boy was not a boy. That boy was a villain to him. That boy was responsible for all these bad events on that day, and appeared to be a boy after all, but a monster. For Swami, it was a monster. It was a large, ugly, big creature which we see in comics or TV. He appeared to be a monster for Swami. He hated that boy like anything. Paragraph 11. As the night advanced, now Swami is in his father's office room alone. As the night advanced and the silence in the house deepened, see, as the night came over, when the time passed by, the silence in the house deepened. The silence was getting more and more. It was getting more and more silent within the house. His heart beat faster. With every time passed by, his heart started beating faster. See the word beat. Beat is present tense. Past tense is also beat. Let us not use the word bait. That word bait is wrong. Sometimes we use the word bait. So beat is present tense. Past tense is also beat. Participle is beaten. He has beaten. She has beaten. You have to use it like that. So his heart beat faster. When does our heart beat faster on normal course? When we run, when we do some physical exercise, when we are extremely nervous, when we are extremely scared. On all these occasions, our heart beats faster. So why was Swami's heart beating faster? Because it was dark. He was scared of darkness. He remembered all the stories of devils and ghosts he had heard in his life. He heard many horror stories from his friends, classmates and neighbors, and he remembered all those stories that night sleeping there in his father's office room. How often his chum Mani had seen the devil in the banyan tree at his street end. So he remembered an incident shared by his chum. His chum means a best friend, Mani, who had seen the devil in the banyan tree. You have seen the banyan tree, a big tree having all the roots which are hanging down. In Kannada it is called algamara, that kind of tree. So banyan tree at his street end. That was one incident. And what about poor Munisami's father, who spat out blood because the devil near the river's edge slapped his cheek when he was returning home late one night? He remembered another incident about his friend Muniswami's father, who spat out blood. Spit is present tense, past tense is spat. His father spat out blood because devil near the river edge slapped his cheeks when he was returning home late one night. So he recalled two incidents, and so on. He recalled many other incidents. The thing continued. On his thoughts continued. All his thoughts continued. He was faint with the fear. He was nervous, he was sweating, he was faint with the fear. A ray of light from the street lamp strayed in and cast shadows on the wall. The only light which he had in his office room was the light which was coming into the room from the street lamp. And it cast shadows on the wall, shadows of tree, shadows of all the things which are present in the hall. Through the stillness, all kinds of noises reached his ears. Through the silence, see, when the room is silent, when the whole house is silent, we are able to hear the minute sounds, even the smallest sounds are heard very clearly. So Swami started hearing all those sounds. Which are the sounds? Please note. The ticking of the clock, the movement of the second hand, the ticking of the clock, then rustle of leaves, the movement of leaves, leaves rubbing one against another, rustle of leaves, snoring sound. His family members were sleeping, their snoring sounds were heard, and some vague night insects humming. Even the mosquitoes and other insects do humming at night. Hum refers to they make sounds at night. That was also heard. He covered himself so completely that he could hardly breathe. So out of fear, he covered himself completely with the blanket so that he could hardly breathe. He covered so tightly that he was not able to breathe properly. Every moment he expected the devils to come up to carry him away. Any moment he was expecting the devil. He thought that in his father's room, after darkness, devils come. Wherever there is darkness, devils are present. So he was extremely scared of ghosts and devils. And moreover, he remembered all the incidents and stories of devils that increased his fear. And he covered himself completely, and every moment he expected the devils to come and take him away. There was the instance of his old friend in the 4th class who suddenly disappeared and was said to have been carried off by a ghost to Siam or Nepal. He remembered another incident. One day, suddenly his friend who was studying in 4th standard disappeared. Villagers searched for him everywhere, but he was not to be seen. And finally, they came to a conclusion that he was taken away by a ghost or a devil to Siam or Nepal. Siam refers to present Thailand, Siam or Nepal. So all these incidents made him more scared. Swami hurriedly got up and spread his bed under the bench and crouched there. Till now he was sleeping on the bench. His father told him to sleep on the bench. And now hurriedly, in a hurry, he got up. Out of fear, he got up and spread his bed under the bench. He slept under the bench. See, you can judge how scared it was. So he slept under the bench and crouched there. He bent his body and crouched there inside the blanket. It seemed to be a much safer place, more compact and assuring. Why did he choose that place? Because that place under the bench, that place was safer from him, more compact, a very small place, and reassuring. Reassuring too, he was very comfortable, he was very calm, and that place was very comfortable for him. He shut his eyes, he closed his eyes very tight, and encased himself in his blanket. He put himself completely, covered himself completely inside the blanket, and unknown to himself fell asleep. And there itself, unknowingly, he fell asleep. And in sleep was raked with the nightmares. In sleep also he was raked with the nightmares. Nightmare refers to a bad dream. Nightmares. What was that nightmare about? A tiger was chasing him. His feet stuck to the ground. He desperately tried to escape, but his feet would not move. The tiger was at his back, and he could hear its claws scratch the ground, scratch, and then a loud thud. So what was the Swami's dream? That was also scary. He was being chased by a tiger, and Swami was running in the dream, and his feet got stuck. Stick present tense, past tense stuck in the ground. He was unable to move. He desperately, with no hope, he tried to escape. He tried to remove his leg, but his feet would not move. He was unable to move his leg. The tiger was at his back. Just behind him was the tiger. What was the tiger doing? He could hear its claws. You can see with the sharp nails, tiger has claws. You could hear its claws scratch the ground. The tiger was scratching the ground with an intention to attack him, pounce upon him, scratch and scratch. It was scratching the ground, and then a loud thud. He heard a loud thud. Thud refers to something heavy. When it falls, it creates a sound. That is called a thud. Swami tried to open his eyes, but eyelids would not open, and the nightmare continued. He tried to open his eyes, but he was not able to open. But the nightmare continued. It threatened to continue forever. He thought that it will continue forever. Swami groaned in despair. Groan is to sound made in pain. In sleep also he made sound because he was extremely scary. He saw the dream of a nightmare of a tiger chasing him, and he groaned in despair, hopelessness, without any help. With a desperate effort, he opened his eyes. With a great effort, he opened his eyes. He put his hand out to feel his granny's presence at his side, as was his habit. So what did he do? Since he was extremely scared, he put his hands outside his blanket and moved his hands like this in order to feel granny's presence. That means whenever he used to get a nightmare, and whenever he used to wake up at night, he would put out his hand from his blanket in order to see granny's presence. If granny is present, he is okay, he is comfortable. But that night also, he put his hand outside the blanket and waved his hand. He tried to feel the presence of granny, but no, granny was not there because he was sleeping in his office room, not in the passage. He did that. But he only touched the leg of the bench. He was able to touch only the leg of the bench and not a granny. And his lonely state came back to him. Suddenly he realized that he was alone. When he touched Ben's leg, he realized that he was not sleeping beside granny. He was alone in his father's office. And he sweated with the fright. Swami was sweating with the fright. When we are extremely scared, we sweat a lot. And now, what was this rustling? What was this rustling? He heard some sound. What was this? So, here I end my lesson. So, let us answer the question later. The question is, what was that rustling? He heard some sound. So, let us see what happens next in my next class. Thank you very much. Hope you liked it.